All right, folks, this is EJS, founder of thrivality.com and FDN practitioner. Today, we're interviewing Philipp von Holtzendorff-Fehling, who's been on the show before. Philipp is the founder of Leela Quantum, which makes a series of devices to increase people's energy and improve their energetic fields, if you will. But most recently, him and his team have come up with a quantum upgrade online service that's kind of a quantum field that you can subscribe to, and it covers everything from your home to your personal to your pets to your car. So I'm really delighted to have Philipp back on the show to talk about sort of the latest iteration of his technology and service. And then I'm joined to help me interview Philipp by Dr. Jeff Wulfman. Dr. Jeff is a board certified physician. He's been in practice over 30 years. And Jeff is really unique as he focuses on clients with complex health challenges like Lyme, mold, chronic fatigue, gut issues. But he's got a really interesting model that he teaches to other practitioners and works with clients on that covers this idea of parasitism. And that can be physical bugs and toxins, but also energetic things from friends or family, or that you pick up in the environment that can impact health, mentally, physically, emotionally, and even in the astral and etheric body. So I thought it'd be great to connect these two and have Dr. Jeff along for the ride.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me as well. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Great. Interesting background, Jeff.
Thank you. It's been an interesting life.
Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on your background, Jeff, and your journey and how you started a regular physician and then started to pivot towards more alternative medicine.
Took a few detours along the way.
Yeah. So I think, Philipp, maybe what we could start with, and I know we've had you on the podcast before, but just maybe a quick framing for people on what is this notion of quantum energy. And how does it interact with our bodies and our environment, our homes, our cats, our dogs, our cars, and things like that? Maybe to just kind of, frame it for people who may not be familiar with this idea.
Quantum energy is the energy behind the matter. It's the same energy we have in each of our cells. And you can also call it source energy. That for some may sound like very spaced up, possibly. Then how can they work with source energy? And is he now going to claim that he invented source energy? Of course not. The quantum field has always been there and will always be there. And we neither manipulated it nor invented it or any such things. We found a method and a way on how to harness and concentrate this natural pure quantum energy in a way never done before. And never done before isn't really true, because I'm sure there's others that also have done that. I know that Nikola Tesla worked with a similar understanding that we work with, even though he was very focused on electricity, which we are not at all focused on electricity, but he understood the ether and actually how to vibrate the ether and get energy into this realm. So that's a similar understanding that we work with. The reason I'm saying this is because what we're doing is not quantum mechanics. And so the quantum energy can be viewed as the fundamental layer of energy. Within the quantum field, all frequencies exist. Whether that is and frequency, by the way, could be exchanged, that word, by information, for example. So you can have a vitamin C frequency, you can have a healing plant frequency, you can have a Rife machine frequency, you can have a sound frequency, you can have scalar, which is also just a frequency spectrum, and all that exists within the quantum field. And then you have the electromagnetic frequencies as well, right, that we can measure with our physical scientific instruments like 4G, 3G, 5G, Wi-Fi, etc. And we are able to work with the most fundamental layer. So when we then bring that into play, all these other frequencies, because the nature of the pure quantum energy field when it's very concentrated is it's supportive to life and consciousness. That's really, in essence, what it does. It neutralizes pretty much anything on a frequency level that is destructive or harmful to life and consciousness. So if you then find in this block, for example, where there's a highly concentrated quantum energy field inside, if you put something inside like a herbicide frequency, for example, it gets neutralized. If you have 5G going on and you're there and that's detrimental to your health, it harmonizes it. That's in essence what it does. That's how it works. And yeah, with that, there's a whole lot of different areas where it can be applied and is beneficial, and has, of course, also been well researched, and we can get into that. But that's kind of like my overview a little bit about quantum energy and how we see it and how we use it.
Yeah, that's actually a really helpful framing of what it is. Having talked to you, many times or several times, it's kind of helpful to get this refresh. So this is the undergirding energy that everything fits in, and by enhancing that in someone's environment, it can be health and conscious promoting.
Correct.
Yeah. So just to, I think, give people a sense of it. So Philip's first company is called Leela Quantum, and they create a series of physical products that they imbue with a variety of frequencies. So this one's the prosperity card. This one is the abundance card. And Philip, I carry these in my pocket like all the time. This is the DNA and cell protector. And then I think this one's the male testosterone.
So do you go to a restaurant then where you live and say, okay, so I'm just gonna put the abundance card here and it's all paid for?
Yeah, I haven't tried that one. I don't think somehow that would work because they're on a different energetic plane.
Instead of the credit card, he slips that in the thing, hands it to the waiter, and they come back. You're good. It's all good.
It's a Jedi mind trick. Yeah, great. And then I've got the infinity block, which I've had for a number of years now, and I've got two of them. One sits down on my kitchen counter, and then one's in our living room. So that's the physical products. Most recently, you've come out with, I don't know how you want, a quantum field service that people can go online to subscribe to protect and harmonize their person, their home, their car, their business. I personally have the personal subscription, but let's talk a little bit about that. What is the quantum upgrade, and how does it differ from the physical products?
Yep. So we, over some time, developed an advanced system that goes way above and beyond like a block. And already with a block, you can do some quantum entanglement, as you know, and I will get into what that means. And now with the system, we basically apply quantum entanglement, and the way it works is that in order for you or anyone else to basically be in the field or have your own customized quantum field for you where you are, we need a unique identifier that's a direct link to you. And there's multiple options. You can do that with a piece of a DNA, for example. You could do that with a picture that shows you in that sense. Or it could be a data set that is directly linked to you, like your name, your birth date, where you were born, and then the country you live in, as an example. Could also be potentially other data sets. Now, if that data set is placed into our system, then you are in the field. Now we developed that so advanced that we can add different types of information to that so that the field can be stronger for you. It can be less strong. You could add specific frequencies, let's say an inner peace frequency for the night. If you want to run a marathon tomorrow, you could set it on the Olympic performance frequency that we have, all the different frequencies that we have available. You can choose. And now the great part is that, and it wouldn't and couldn't even work any other way, you are in control. You are in full control of that, because on your end, like with your Netflix, right? If you have a Netflix subscription, you're in control in what you want to watch, right? Just Netflix gives you the selection, the menu, and you get to choose, oh, Ted Lasso, I'm going to watch that. So you go there, you watch that, and you set it. And the same thing you can do with quantum upgrade. You say, okay, for the night, I want the energy to be like this, and I want this frequency. For the day, I want a different. Oh, and by the way, at 10 a.m. in the mornings, usually I feel a little bit tired. I want like an extra energy boost. You can set all these things yourself, and that is implemented with just a 5-minute, up to 5-minute lag time. So it's almost in real time that all the changes are implemented that you do in the system. So that's pretty much in a nutshell how it works. The quantum entanglement is, and it's interesting because in 2022, the Nobel Prize for Physics was awarded for work on quantum entanglement. Not a lot of people know that. However, and I like it for the fact that quantum entanglement gets into the minds of the people, that we start to realize that there's something out there that we didn't really know was possible. However, their work is theoretical, fairly theoretical, and it looks at particles, that you entangle particles. The most fundamental layer is not a particle, though. It's energy, and you can entangle energies. So, as I said, if we place the direct link to you, the unique identifier, into this field, then you are in the field. We're not sending the energy to you. It's not like a broadcasting it out. You're literally in the field. And then wherever you go, you may travel to Australia and back, and I don't know, run a marathon and come back. You're always in the field. So it's like a quantum energy streaming service, just that we don't send anything to you. You're literally in the field, because that's what quantum entanglement does.
I'm curious, Philip, like a lot of what you're talking about is reminding me of the work of David Hawkins and his, levels of consciousness and the frequency, and that everything has an inherent frequency that is either supportive of life or detracting of life, and higher frequency neutralizes the lower. And it sounds, this is obviously in those realms that, that you're speaking of. And do you utilize like any of the sort of calibrations and stuff in any of the work that you do?
Yes, I'm glad you're bringing it up, because Dr. David Hawkins indeed had some groundbreaking work. I find his books very, very intriguing and interesting, and we use indeed the Hawkins scale of consciousness nowadays. Before we started using it, we used our own model where we, with the actual quantum consciousness levels that we saw, but that wasn't in a scale. Then we realized a lot of people out there, especially in the US, knew already of Dr. Hawkins' work, so they had like a frame of reference, and it made it easier. And we were also asked, could you tell us what it is on the Hawkins scale? So we started actually calibrating all of that on the Hawkins scale, and we use the levels on the Hawkins scale. However, some things have changed. There's 2 things that would need to be rewritten and edited in Dr. Hawkins' books now from today's perspective, because what he did not foresee at the time, and probably no one could have foreseen that, is that the energies on Earth have shifted significantly. And what doesn't apply anymore is, first of all, the limit that he set at 1,000. It literally doesn't exist anymore. And if you'd ask me, okay, so where is the limit now? I must say it's unlimited. And that is actually also very cool in a way, because consciousness itself is unlimited. It literally doesn't have a limit. It is infinite. And we're moving more into this now, and obviously inviting these higher energies here in this earth realm now also. So there isn't a limit anymore. And also the other thing is that's important for people to know, which hopefully is encouraging, is that he had said at the time that it's for the average individual, they can just raise their consciousness throughout a lifetime by like 15, 20 points or something like that.
Not
And
anymore.
it couldn't be further from the truth now. Again, I'm not at all saying like that he was wrong or any of that, because I think his work is and was amazing, but things shift and things change, and we need to make sure that we adapt and don't live by concepts, but look at the way it now is.
Yes, and that's been my experience too. Is the speed at which people can transform and change now is multiple magnitudes faster than it used to be, and that may have been totally accurate at that point in time. But things are going so fast, and this technology also is like we are actually in these higher vibrational realms and working in these other areas.
Yep.
So let me ask you this question, Philipp. Dr. Jeff and I tend to work with patients that have these chronic, complex health challenges, right? And so on one level, while the pace of change at a consciousness level is really clearly moving very fast, I think when we work with clients, it seems like it takes a systemic approach to address their problems, right? Spanning hormones, immune, digestion, detox, energy production, nervous system. They often have limbic impairment. They have got traumas from, family or car accident.
Parasites,
bugs, and parasites like you've done a great job of framing this, Dr. Jeff, is parasites can be physical, mental, emotional. I was recently on a dry fasting retreat, Philipp, in Europe. And I did 9 days with no food or no water. Yeah, it's pretty hardcore. But one of the attendees there, it was really struggling post-exit, and I've kept in touch with her and did a little energetic checking, and I just picked up there was like bad juju from family or relatives or something like that. So people deal with a variety of parasitic influences. How can this technology be applied to people dealing with these complex challenges so we can help them heal faster? Because it can be a slog.
Yeah, so from my experience now, and by the way, for the people out there, right, I'm sure we'll get into the studies also, because I certainly don't want you to check out now and just say, well, these people are talking energetics, that's kind of cool, but for me, I need some substance. Wait, we have a lot of substance actually. But yeah, so it's been my experience that certain things can go away extremely quickly and almost miracle-like when the technology is used. But that's not the general case, right? And sometimes it cannot be generalized, because someone with a knee problem could have a completely different story and outcome and reaction than someone else with a knee problem, because it may be completely two different things. So that's the first thing to understand. You can have some super fast effects. We had a guy, that had 7 years of hard knee pain, and he did everything he could. He couldn't get it away. And just 20 or 30 minutes putting his knee in the block helped him to never have the knee pain again, right? That's the extreme situation on the spectrum that I'm describing here, where it's like, this is crazy, right? I mean, how could this happen? Obviously, there were energetic blockages that were solved and transformed in the moment when using the block for him that he hadn't, unlocked before, and then that happened. Now, going back to more the general way, is that I see it the same way, that for most health issues, we have to look at all kinds of different areas, also because we're bombarded from so many different areas, right? We deal with EMFs, and actually way more than that, because most people don't even know what else is out there. Like the 4G and 5G is just what we know of, but there's, we know of a lot more frequencies that are out there. Then you have just regular stress of having to feed your family and going to the job and doing a good job. Maybe you're worried about the economy. All these things are stressors as well, and they're more stressors out there than ever before. The fears that are propagated everywhere. But then you have bad air, bad food, all this kind of stuff, and the body needs to deal with it. So I think in general, the healthy living and the healthy living aspect is great, and everyone should be following just these general guidelines of healthy diet, be mentally healthy, do some exercise, take care of, your toxins, of your free radicals, of your parasites, all these things. But we're very focused on the physical, usually. And I say the most important, above all, to take care of is your energy system, because at core, we're energy and frequency. We get up in the mornings, we brush our teeth, and we take a shower, but shouldn't we take care of our energy system before we brush our teeth? And even if it's just 2 or 3 minutes every day, that would already make a huge shift. If we add that, and it doesn't mean, so we shouldn't suddenly avoid supplements or all these things, right? If we just keep doing all the great things we're doing for our health, but we add the energetic aspect, then leaps are possible. And that's what we're seeing with the people that are using the tech. And we certainly can get into studies that are placebo controlled that show what it does on a physical level. It's quite remarkable. But for me, it's not a standalone tool that you would just use this and nothing else. I think it goes very well hand in hand with all the other great things you can do. It's just another layer that is now available to us that we can also leverage.
I can't thank you enough for saying that, because I think that's been my experience, right? I've got the technology, but I have found no silver bullets in my journey, and that it really is kind of a stacking approach, where you build, the layers, right? You've got, diet and energetics and water and air, and and so given that we've got this environment we're living in, you kind of have to stack and get all the stars to align, to kind of get the health where you want it to be. Yeah. Dr. Jeff, anything you'd add or edit there? Or
well, I, being the little bit of a nerd that I am, I'd love to hear some of the studies that you've done and the outcomes and things like that you guys have looked into and experienced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so there were a few studies that looked at actual substances. For example, water. The Emoto Institute out of Japan looked at our technology and what it does to water, and it was able to improve water faster and better than any other method or device they tested before, which was quite remarkable for them. And since about 20 months or so, almost 2 years, they've been reselling our products in Japan just because they saw what it does to the energy of water. Now, something that just recently happened. So
Philip, sorry to interrupt. Was that with the Leela or with
yeah, that's with the block.
Okay.
That was with the block, but also with the water bottle. But we could find a way to do that with the quantum upgrade, but that's currently not offered, that you can charge your water or something like that. You do that yourself, and we'll get into that, because the body is over 99% water on a molecular weight level. So there's a lot of water involved in our lives. Even though we don't feel like an ocean, we certainly are somehow. So but that's just like a physical result that doesn't involve humans, right? And then I want to get into humans in a second, but I want to mention something that I haven't really shared much yet. So Ian Mitchell and Dr. Robert Sheev, a professor at the University of Tulsa, they ran an experiment with zinc. They took zinc and then they put it in the block, and they measured the redox potential of the zinc before and after, and it was completely different, which is interesting, right? So there's an obvious change in the redox potential. So something is definitely happening, right? And then we have a chemist in Germany right now who's now actually taking this to another level, and he's running a real study on this. He's tested by now 10 different substances, from ibuprofen over vitamin C and all kinds of different substances. And each time he puts these substances in the blood, afterwards the redox potential has changed, and it doesn't necessarily increase or decrease. It actually increases or decreases based on the quality of the substance. So what we knew energetically already is his interpretation that it makes the substance better in its very quality, which is very fascinating. So that's just like on the very physical side. Obviously, you can never have a placebo effect involved in that, right? Because an ibuprofen can't think it's going to work for it, right? Now we move into the human studies, and there was an interesting over distance study done with 42 autistic kids. That was a clinical trial run by a clinic in India that's focused on autistic kids, and 3 months of the 6-month study were actual quantum, they called it quantum healing over distance, and basically our technology was used, and that alone decreased the so-called ATIC score, where the kids are on the spectrum, by 10 basis points. Then we had another 3 month where it was taken down another 10 basis points. That was with a special capsule that we created for these kids with specific frequencies. And so that's another layer. And then we went into blood testing, so live blood analysis and dark field microscopy, which has been quite a big research field for us. Dr. Rubik and the Base Institute in Austria, and Dr. Rubik is in the US, they were mainly the ones performing these studies. There was another professor also involved early on, but he's not practicing anymore. And what was shown very early on quickly was that the blood improved significantly, white blood cells, red blood cells, and all of that. So they took it to gold standard studies that were sham controlled, so that you would have, you have a before test that's in a Wi-Fi free environment. Then you turn on Wi-Fi, you measure again, you show what happens, and actually the blood state is really bad afterwards. The oxygenation is pretty much gone. The blood clotting can be seen up to stage 2 of blood clotting. White blood cells tend to get paralyzed by Wi-Fi. All of that you see. Then you introduce our technology or the sham device to make sure you rule out any placebo effects. And it was very obvious that in 100% of the cases, significant improvements in the blood happened in all test persons. And with significant, I mean really significant, not just like 10, 20, 30% improvements, but massive improvements within just 10 minutes. And interestingly, and that may be interesting for you, the Base Institute found out at some point, they didn't look at parasitic load in the blood necessarily, so they weren't looking for that, but they saw it. And they even had a case and they saw a decrease in parasitic load in the blood. And they had a case where they saw even an 80% reduction in parasitic load in the blood after, I think it was 15 minutes. And so now that we heard that, we said, okay, so couldn't you go back now to all the other studies that were done with our tech, the blood studies, and look specifically, because the pictures are still there, right? To look at parasitic load to determine, okay, on average, what are we seeing here? Is it like between 20 and 80%? Is it between 30 and 80%? Or, what is that average number? Because we would like to know. So they're doing this deep dive right now. And I think within the next 30 days, I should know. And I'm happy to let you know. And I stop here because then we can move on to some of the even more exciting studies that happened over the last 18 months.
Awesome. What follow-on questions do you have there, Dr. Jeff, if any?
No, so I'm curious now what these follow-up studies are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Then I keep going. I just didn't want to just talk all the time.
Yeah.
So we looked into ATP production. So we were introduced to Dr. Robert Schief. He is an associate professor at the University of Tulsa. He's one of the experts in the field of working with human cells and looking into ATP production, things like wound healing and so on, and what can impact that negatively and positively, etc. Right? So he ran a study in regards to ATP production, and that was indeed done with our quantum upgrade service. Also, the live blood analysis studies that I referenced, several of those were done with our block technology, but others were done with a quantum upgrade. So it both works. So they had a control group of cells, and then they had the treated group, and it was blinded. So no one knew which were the treated ones until it was revealed, basically, after the study. And they showed a significant increase in ATP production in the treated group. Then he said, this is crazy, because he actually thought it couldn't work because he didn't think an energy device could do something like this, right? So he was pretty skeptical to begin with, and then he proved himself wrong in that study. And then he said he needs to repeat it just because there's a part in him that he needs to move along. That's how he said it. So he did it again. The same result happened, and then he said, okay, so now I need to do it a third time, just because if I publish this, then I just want to cover my butt, right? And so he did it again, and yeah, same result. So there's an increase that can be measured of 20 to 29% in ATP production in the treated cells, which is quite remarkable. If you think about it, it's a medical breakthrough because it's non-invasive. You don't need to I don't know, take any NAD shots, no supplements, just to get that with the press of a button. That's not bad. And then he went into wound healing studies, because we found out that he can look into wound healing rates. And then we're like, okay, I mean, this is fascinating. Could you run a study in that regard? And he said, yes. So then the way that works, again, with millions of cells in the control group and millions in the treated group, the cells get scratched or damaged. Usually they do that with a laser, but it could also be done mechanically. I think they did it both ways, and they found and they actually repeated this study also multiple times. So each of the studies had statistical significance on its own because of the size, but they had it 5 times total, and in all of those they showed a significant acceleration in wound healing in the treated group. That was between 46.5% to 100%. So 100%, that was the fastest acceleration. In other words, the wound healed twice as fast, which is quite remarkable. And yeah, those studies have now been published, and yeah, we're constantly working on even more studies. There's a lot more stuff going on, but I stop here for now.
Great. And I was wondering if you could, I realize that like the whole sort of the technology is proprietary and all that, but it's a little bit like, what is this thing and where is it and what's it doing? And it's almost like, when you're talking about the influence on cells, it's almost like it's like electronic prayer or something. Because I used to study like the mind-body studies from way back, and they would have people who would pray for fibroblasts or whatever, and then they would see, wow, that which is just a frequency, which is just a quantum frequency transmission. So I'm just curious, what who developed this? Who's developing? Is it a team? Is it one person? Not looking for details, but just like a little something like what is it? Where's it coming from? Kind of thing.
Yeah, it's myself with a team of some very gifted people that have X-Men type of capabilities. Honestly, not in terms of like throwing fire with your hand or something like that, but seeing frequencies on an extremely granular level, where you could call it and that was actually measured even in labs, that they have brain connections that others don't have. and with a team of scientists. So it's a team effort, and we constantly develop and innovate. So also the quantum upgrade system as a whole doesn't just stay like this. By the way, we have 3 of these systems running across the world at the moment in parallel. We only needed one, or need one, in order for it to function well, but in 3 different continents we have one location, just in case ever anything happens to any location or anything goes down. That's why we do it that way. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how we work, but we do have an expanded vision for the system, so we don't stand still in that regard. We always check, okay, what else can we do? So we're developing new frequencies, we're adding new frequencies. We actually also, for everyone that has had the quantum upgrade for some time, they will tell you that we're constantly adding new value for them without increasing the price, and that's been like that since day one. So if someone had, let's say, the all-in-one frequency bundle, for example, for their subscription, they may have had, I think, like 8 or 10 frequencies that they could choose from in the beginning, and now it's almost 30 frequencies, I think. But the price for the bundle hasn't changed. But I mean, the vision goes further than that, and we can certainly get into that at some point. But that's still like, yeah, not close.
Great, thanks.
So how, Philip, would someone, I think there's 2 applications here that Dr. Jeff and I would be interested in, is how does an individual person apply, your quantum upgrade service? And this is, let's talk about a profile person, right? This person has Lyme or mold illness. They've got chronic fatigue, gut issues. They might have some level of sleep challenge. And certainly, anxiety and stress, right? Because of the journey of the illness, or maybe even, stress and trauma preceding the illness that helped bring it on in the first place. So walk us through like what someone would do and how they would apply, the quantum upgrade service to help support all the other good stuff they're doing, from, nutrition and water and, clean air and things like that.
Yeah. So I would always suggest for an individual to book the so-called U or For You subscription. That's the quantum upgrade for you. That's indeed for an individual, right? For a human, because that's the most powerful one, because that's supporting your energy system directly. And just by having that without any specific frequencies, that's already uplifting and supportive, and helps you on multiple levels, that you can then also have, if you can do it, to also have the all-in-one frequency bundle with it. Gives you access to all the frequencies that are available, which gives you ultimate flexibility to choose, when you need it. I tell you, so I play national level tennis, and so this year specifically, I'm doing this, and I fell really bad yesterday on the court, and while I was running and I was falling, I noticed, if my fall just continues in this way, and that was like all happening within a millisecond, right? I realized I'm gonna either twist my ankle or twist my knee really bad, which would lead to an at least 6-week stop of playing. So I instantly fell differently to completely avoid any impact on the ankle and the knees, which then made me lose complete control of the fall, though. And I actually fell on the head, and my opponent was like, "Oh my God, the sound was so loud. I don't even know how your head is still like on your body," right? So and it started bleeding and everything. And what did I do afterwards? Okay, all the biohacking tools, right? Red light belt. I took additional supplements. Obviously, I hydrated. I turned on our quantum upgrade on booster and put the so-called Heal 360 frequency on. For the night, I put the regular Heal frequency on so that I get the benefit of both. And today I'm running the Heal 360 frequency again, and I'm totally fine. Like I literally, it's an inch that this was bleeding here, right? And from the whole impact and the sound, it should have been a major concussion. This is just a personal, subjective story, obviously, and I happen to even be the founder of that company, so please don't take my word for it. But I hope you can sense like what's possible. So you do all these other things, right? And I took Schüssler salts, for example, right? So amazing German salts from Dr. Schüssler, and doing this, and I'm great. I'm actually going to play tennis again later. So that's what is possible if you do the right thing. But yeah, that's what you would do, because if you want to take care of yourself, you can quickly adjust, right? In the moment I was like, okay, I need this frequency now, and then you need that frequency. If I'm in anxiety, I can switch it to the inner peace frequency. So it gives you the ultimate flexibility to do these things. And so with a quantum upgrade, that's how you use it, right? And you can, on your phone, you use your phone and you can just change the settings there. Certainly there's limitations with the system, but the limitation is where the physical products come in, right? Because with the system, you can't charge your water, you cannot charge your foods, right? Or your silverware. That is where you need a block, basically, to do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I've been on the quantum upgrade shortly since it came out, and interesting, I saw the Heal 360 frequency was recently added, so I think I've had that in there roughly like a week. What kind of level does someone need to get at? Yeah, because the booster level, I think I'm up to like 1300 now, and I might even be able to go higher, but what level, like from a boost perspective, so just people understand. So that Phillips and his team built an interface, right? So you go into this interface and you can say, I need a boost, and I need to run for 90 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, and you can boost. I'm up to like 1300 in my boost now, Philip. Is that a good number, or should I turn it up to 2000?
You could do way more because the boost is not too long, and so as soon as you feel it's maybe getting too much, you can then turn it off, right? But I would go much higher for the booster to just test it out and see,
okay,
and maybe do it where you could really need this extra level of energy, right? And why not crank it up? You've used the tech long enough that you won't have any problems with that. But the highest number for a booster would be 2200. That is only available, I think, for people that have had the quantum upgrade for at least 180 days. The reason is because yeah, I know, but if someone is new to this, people tend to always want to use the strongest, most powerful setting they can, and that's not the right advice for this. And that's sort of where we're trying to protect the people a little bit by not giving them access to the highest levels, because the other levels that they have, they're already super high for them when they start with this. So, but yeah, 2200 is the max, and I think for the regular level, I think 1400 is the max, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Okay.
And so there's some fun features also. And by the way, so that's for you, right? And that's what I recommend if someone wants to take care of him or herself, to do that. But there's the possibility to do it for a pet. You can do it for even a business, for a home, for a car. Those are all different possibilities as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, it makes sense with that being careful at the beginning. Similar to the physical dimension. If you go too fast, too far with someone, because I imagine with this frequency being brought in, there's on the physical dimension, there's detoxing and all kinds of things that could be happening that needs to be taken in a stepwise fashion to what the pace someone can handle it. And I noticed on your site, drink lots of water and all that. I imagine that's an important piece to help mobilize what is being loosened up. And also water carries memory and those kinds of things. So if they are processing old traumas and stuck emotion, that gives it a way out.
Correct. And so we had an interesting one or case. So that was Ben Greenfield. Now, Ben Greenfield is one of the most known biohackers in the world, and an athletic trainer, and he started the quantum upgrade, and for whatever reason he overheard or overlooked that that he should just not crank it up all the way, especially at nights. And so he cranked it up to the limit, and that guy has a good sleep usually. He could not sleep at all for 3 days. And then we happened to talk, and I told him, you can't crank it up like all the way. That's crazy. Just go to 500. Like, that's what I'm doing. That's the lowest level possible that we have, right? The level of unconditional love below you can't go for obvious reasons, but 500, you can maybe do 600, but I personally do 500 at night. I don't need stimulation at night.
Yeah.
And then he did that, and he slept like a baby, like every day. And that, for him, he can't sense energy usually that well, but that was like so obvious for him, right? It was like it couldn't be more clear afterwards that this is really working.
That's funny. I spent a couple of weeks with Ben and his family as part of a group of listeners over in Switzerland in 2019, and so I can attest he's a pretty good sleeper. I mean, he did pretty good.
It's a classic biohacker, right?
Yeah.
Turn it all the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I am not good at slow. That's for sure. Yeah. Cool. So let's shift gears a little bit. I think there's the individual level, and obviously certainly our families, but we've seen such polarization in our society and in our world, and things on one level seem like they're falling apart, right? I was reading the Washington Post a few weeks back, and they were talking about how the cartels, in Mexico and that region of the world are just kind of taking over, and they're even taxing, right, the guy that's making the thing you roll a taco into, right? The tortillas. Yeah. And I'm like, is this the best we can do as humanity? So give us a little hope here, Philip. How can this technology be leveraged to kind of raise the vibration in our communities as we ourselves embrace it?
Yeah. Well, I love that you bring this up towards the end, because that is what the last words should be about, about the future and all what we're all wanting to see, right, in the world. And indeed, it looks pretty ugly right now. It looks surreal almost on a certain level, what's happening. From my perspective, that's the healing process right now. And we're actually in it right now deeply, because in this month we are already seeing an energetic shift that is bigger than anything we have seen. And it's going to blow people's minds, and will wake a lot of people up. What I'm usually not talking too much about is that the technology really works on the consciousness level. All the physical positive results happen because it works on the consciousness level. And so if you go to a dark room in the basement that you haven't seen for 10 years and you've never even went into that room, and then you turn on the light, you see all the crap there. Maybe dead mice in the corners, you see dust everywhere and all of that. That's the ugly part, and what you then see, but it was already there, right? You just didn't see it. Now we get to see it all. And I think we're getting to see even the extremes of it, and maybe they're displayed even in a very extreme way, even on purpose. That's at least my observation, right? This debate thing, for example, we don't need to get into details, but for me, that was a display. That was a public display that happened on purpose. It wasn't random. It's extreme, but it doesn't really matter, because it's just for everyone out there. How it happens sometimes doesn't matter. It is happening. It's like we're seeing it. It's like we're being had, right? It doesn't make any sense. And that is a wake-up process right now. And if the wound is healing, it is ugly. in the process, right? There's a part where really the wound looks the ugliest, and from that point on, that's really where it starts to heal until the wound is completely healed and you can't even see it anymore. And that is the process right now that we're going through. So it's a very healthy healing process at the moment, and a lot of things will shift. And I think, if enough people are hopefully waking up and have woken up already, that we can fulfill these shifts. And for me, that's something very, very tangible, actually. It's not just some concept. It's not something that I wish to happen. It's like I literally see it happen. People are waking up, and more people need to, frankly, but it is happening. So it's, I think, very positive. And what we said about Dr. Hawkins' work and how things now have shifted with there's no limit anymore, that is actually because Earth has shifted. The energy on Earth has shifted. And that for us leaves the possibility that humans can now also make this shift. I always tell people, like, you don't need to be concerned about the Earth. Like, not at all. You need to be concerned about humans.
Yeah, I've often wondered, Philip, it's like Mother Earth is going to wake up and it's like, what are these people? You shake them off, So yeah, I think we're going to get tossed off of here if we don't wake up.
And the other piece that I find so inspiring as I dove into like what are all the things that are impairing humans, the more I looked into them, like, holy crap, it's amazing we're actually upright and walking. So our levels of resilience is incredible, despite all this stuff. You know,
I agree.
And so I just that gives me, like, never count out Team Human. Like, we just keep adapting.
Yeah.
But so we need to focus inwards. We need to build the new. We need to talk about the new. That's all what we're all doing, right? And then the heart will lead and guide the way, and that is what's happening. All these other games that have been played, these very, very negative and brutal games, they're coming to an end because they're losing the energy support. So we're seeing this shift, and it's sort of like the last the last stuff we see from all of these evil games at the moment.
Yeah. Thanks for that perspective.
Yeah, it's helpful. I've got a book written by the late Bill Harris from Centerpoint called Thresholds of the Mind, and one of the points that he makes in there is that chaos should be welcomed rather than resisted. And I think we're seeing that evolve in our society today, and like all the chaos. And I don't want all the wheels to come off the car, but because then somebody else is going to pick up the pieces. But it does need to go through some change in them. Yeah. Well, I think this is a great place to stop. Philip, thanks so much for giving Dr. Jeff and I some time today. For the listeners out there, I will put in the show notes a link to the Quantum Upgrade. Philip, maybe we can give folks a discount code or something post show.
Just say a code that you want for like a 15-day free trial. Just
Thrive.
Thrive. Okay.
Yeah,
code Thrive. So be it. 15 days free trial with code Thrive.
Yeah.
On quantumupgrade.io.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks guys for this time. Really appreciate it. And let's make it great. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me on. That was great. Thank you. Appreciate
it. Take care,
it.
Phil. Nice to meet you.
You too.
All right. Be well.